Hey, deserving listeners, a lot of you have been asking me to react to the Will Smith slapping Chris Rock video at the Oscars. Let's watch.
Jada, I love you. G.I. Jane 2, can't wait to see it. All right?
So full disclosure, I've seen this already many times. I saw it live as it was being broadcast. I have an Oscar party every year. My friends were over. We were watching it. And I was completely convinced it was faked. I just could not believe that Will Smith would do something like that. But other people became convinced, including Umberto, who was at the party, and he was arguing with me. He's like, no, that's real. And I'm like, no, that's fake. It wasn't until everyone went home that I watched it and started to realize that it was real, or at least it looks real. It's just because I just can't believe, given my conception of what Will Smith is capable of, that he would have done something like that. But I don't know the real Will Smith. So in this video, I'm going to hypothesize about why someone might have done something like this. I can't know what conceptualization I would develop if I were to have him as a client. And if I did, I wouldn't share it with you because that would be confidential. But I can hypothesize if I were to be working with someone like this. And this has happened. People have come to my office saying they've done something along these lines. And they're like, I don't know why I did it, or I need to work on some issues. Can you help me? And so one of the things that I do with my style is I want to work together with the client to develop a set of hypotheses as to the factors that led to the behavior. Because when we can understand where it comes from, then we can know what to address to prevent it from happening again. Because simply saying, I'm never going to do it again, usually doesn't work. We have to figure out what's going on underneath. So that's what I'm going to hypothesize here.
That was a nice one. Okay. I'm out here. Richard.
Okay, so there's the slap. It looks forceful. It doesn't look playful. It looks like there's a lot of anger there. We might call it rage. Let's continue.
Wow. Will Smith just smacked the shit out of me.
Keep my wife's name out your fucking mouth.
Wow, dude.
Yes.
It was a G.I. Jane jump.
Keep my wife's name out your fucking mouth.
So right there, we see a lot of rage, a lot of anger, like very particular anger, right? If Will Smith were to come to me and we were to explore why he did what he did so that he can address those issues so that he doesn't do them again, one of the roads I would encourage him to go down with me would be to explore what was his emotional state at this moment. What did his body feel like? Because the way that this looks to me, it looks as though trauma has been triggered. The other thing I want to say from the outset is that this was morally wrong. You know, morals are subjective, but to me, this was an immoral act. There was no reason to be physically violent with Chris Rock. It was a joke. It wasn't a particularly good joke. You could consider it to be offensive. Did Chris Rock know about Jada Smith's alopecia? Even if he did know, does it justify that kind of thing? I think most people would agree no. A lot of people would say, and have on Twitter, that Chris Rock did deserve it. But I think most people would agree that that's not the kind of society we want to live in, where someone can make a joke on stage and then get beat up for it. I mean, think about if this is the way we want to live our society, then comics will never go on stage again, or half of comics. Now, there's a larger question here as to what jokes should be said versus what jokes should not. And we have that debate all the time, but certainly we wouldn't say, well, whenever someone offends us, we should just be violent. We should just punch them or slap them or push them down. I think most of us would agree that that's not the sort of society we want to live in, and it's reflected in the laws. Just because someone says something doesn't justify you being violent with them. The first thing that I want to talk about is the possibility that for Will Smith, he has incurred a lot of internet hate as of late, maybe even throughout his career. I made a video about a reaction video to Jada and Will's Red Table talk. Although most of the comments on my video were civil and wise, many comments were not. I certainly would get emails, people saying that Will Smith is, and I won't even repeat the words because I think I'll get flagged by YouTube, but CUCK, PUSSY, simp, he'll get called a simp because, if you don't know the history, there's some marital issues between Jada and Will, and Jada, I think, cheated on Will. The fact that Will Smith accepted Jada back, it looks, according to some people, as if Will Smith is a wimp, as if he's weak for accepting her back, for letting her do that kind of thing. And I said in the reaction video that infidelity happens. It certainly can be a deal breaker for some people, but for many people it's not. Especially in a long-term relationship, you have kids, you have a history together. A lot of people will work on the relationship. Point is that toxic masculinity is what I want to talk about. So in our culture, we have this notion that men are supposed to be a certain way. And if they're not that way, then we will ridicule them. We will say, you're a wimp, you're a wuss, you're a CUCK, you're a PSSY, and you're not a real man. I want to delineate positive masculinity from toxic masculinity. It's not like all masculinity is toxic by any means. I'm a masculine man, and I like to ascribe to positive masculine things. Anyway, so he, I think, got a lot of attacks and has for a long time. Just think about all that getting inside of him, and just day after day, interviewers will not just people on Twitter, but I think people would ask him questions in interviews like, so tell us about, why did you just let your wife cheat on you? These kinds of questions. And then of course you add racism into the mix, where he's experienced that his entire life. So you just think about all the racist attacks, all the toxic masculine attacks, all the general attacks that he's getting throughout his life, particularly in the last 5 or 10 years. It can be unbearable. I am a tiny, tiny, tiny little sliver of a celebrity on YouTube, and I can't take it. It is hard. I have sleepless nights from the attacks that I get. I cannot imagine what it would be like for him. It doesn't justify slapping Chris Rock, but it might be a thing that if he were to seek therapy, something to heal from, something to protect himself from, something to process, something to figure out. It can be traumatic. It can rattle you. We tend to think about celebrities as if they're some sort of superhuman that can handle criticism and attacks, and it's just simply not true. When I talk to actual celebrities, and when you hear some celebrities talk about the issue, you will hear that's a real human being. They can't deal with it either. No one can. No one can deal with constant criticism and attacks. So it's possible that that was wrapped up in it for him, that the attacks, and then there's a joke, and then not only attack at him, but also attacks at Jada, and you just get upset. And I've been there. Again, I haven't been violent, and I would like to think I would never be that way, but there are times when it just gets so much, the attacks and the criticism and the ridiculousness. You just want to be like, well, I will tell you, one time, years ago, someone on YouTube was attacking me and calling me a simp or a CUCK or something, and I'm 6'1". And I was captain of the football team and the wrestling team. I feel like I haven't fought in a long time, but I'm not going to shy away from it. And so I said to the guy, because I was like, okay, you're going to be toxic masculine with me. I'll be toxic masculine with you, pal, on YouTube. I was like, how about I give you my address? You can show up and we'll see who's the CUCK. How about that? Like, I said that. So I have a tiny 0.001% of the amount of negativity that Will Smith is getting. So I get it. You just want to be like, fine, let's go. You want to make a joke? Let's go. Again, doesn't justify it. I was wrong for calling that person out. It's not the way we should be living our lives. A lot of horrible things happen because of that impulse. But anyway, you wonder if that's a part of it. Also, like I said, racist attack. I get racist attacks as well. I can't imagine the amount of racist attacks that he gets on a daily basis. Jada as well. Then it makes me wonder, okay, well, if that's true, which I don't know, might one overcompensate by, okay, you're going to call me a CUCK, you're going to call me a wimp, you're going to call me a simp. I'll show you who's the simp. Not to Chris Rock, but just to, the internet in general, because people are calling him that because Jada cheated on him. You could imagine a rage inside of him, just like, let's go. Like, you want to call me, I'm working on my marriage. I'm trying to keep my family together. I'm trying to be a good husband. I'm trying to be a good father. I'm trying to be a good person, and I'm being attacked and I'm being called these names. Let's go. You want to go toe to toe. Let's do this. You can just imagine a rage developing, which I have felt, and sometimes still do. Does not justify what he did. Doesn't justify violence at all. But I just wonder, because given the way that when he's yelling, it just feels like that. I've been there before in tiny ways for far less than what he's dealt with. Chris Rock's joke, according to this hypothesis, would be the final tiny little straw on the camel's back, after just years and years of other straws that Chris Rock had nothing to do with. So that's the first hypothesis that I'd have. Just, it seems like there's something going on with Will and the world and jokes and protecting his family. And because, it's not only him being attacked, but, Jada gets attacked. His kids get a lot of hate as well. And so, you could imagine that. And then it makes me wonder about the role that he was playing in King Richard, which was a great movie. And the whole premise of it is that he was a staunch protector and fighter, not physically, but, fighting for Venus and Serena Williams, his daughters, and was really scared of them being influenced by negative things and being attacked for their race and for being discriminated. He had to fight and fight and fight and fight and fight, and he shepherded two of the greatest, if not the greatest, tennis players of all time. Will Smith really got into that role, seemingly. Now, we should know that he filmed that film a long time ago. Maybe being in the Oscars, it kind of gets him into that mode again. I think acting can get under your skin when you get into a role. In his apology, he's like saying, protect family. And of course, I'm sure he believes that anyway, but you think about the King Richardness of that whole thing. Anyway, let's continue watching.
I'm going to, okay? Okay. That was a greatest night in the history of television. Okay.
The other factor at play could be that Will Smith has an ongoing grudge with Chris Rock, because Chris Rock said a joke about Jada Pinkett Smith boycotting the Oscars a number of years ago, and he was making fun of her, saying, well, you boycotting the Oscars is silly because you're not getting an award. So, good for you for boycotting the Oscars. It's possible that Will and Jada were hurt by that. And, you can just imagine that, right? Like in front of the camera, Will and Jada, they probably have to act like, oh yeah, Chris Rock just making a joke. But behind the scenes, it probably stings. Jada was trying to make a political statement by standing up for the fact that the Academy Awards were being very preferential to white people. As an Asian American, I can tell you that my people are often ignored. Not all the time, but frequently, and black people as well. And so there was a movement to boycott the Oscars because of that, and Jada was participating in that. And then Chris Rock makes fun of her and targets her for that, which you could imagine that would hurt, right? Now, it's a joke. Chris Rock is a comedian. But you just have to wonder, were there conversations behind the scenes about him? Has there been an ongoing grudge that has been building over time? Again, it doesn't justify slapping across the face, but it, could be a factor. The other thing that I wonder about is, does Will Smith have an anger problem in general? Does he have a temper problem in general? And this is what would likely be the result of trauma, of post-traumatic stress or some other trauma syndrome. The way that he reacts, it seems physical. The way that is when he's screaming. When he slaps, it's not so much that way. But when he's screaming, it seems to be coming from a very dark place for him. I don't know that, but because it seemed like in a very inappropriate space, right? It wasn't like they were outside and someone was pushing someone and, this sort of thing. It was like there's jokes, everyone's dressed up, there's cameras, and then all of a sudden this anger, this rage comes out of it. It seems uncontrolled, right? It doesn't seem like a choice. It doesn't seem like he's saying, I'm going to get angry right now. It could have been to be a signal to Jada, like, I'm in your corner. That's another factor that I want to throw out there while I'm on that subject is there something going on between Jada and him that he feels he has to have a show of loyalty to her? Maybe he did something to hurt her earlier in the day or even last year that they're still dealing with, and he feels like, oh, this is my chance to stand up for her. She was just hurt by this. I'm going to stand tall and I'm going to show her that I love her. You could imagine that being a factor as well. I have no idea. But I also wonder about a trauma reaction. Who knows what Will Smith has been through throughout his life, childhood, even as an adult. But it just looked like unbridled rage. And when I see that, I usually think trauma reactivity. But I don't know. The other thing I thought about was entitlement. He has been a super famous person for over 30 years. And in that environment, it's a very weird world, right? Where people do what you want them to do. And you have people always saying yes to you, and everything you do is great, and you're the best, and I love you, the adoration. And you could, if you let it get to your head, start to believe that you can do anything you want. When someone bothers you, you could maybe even slap them across the face. I don't know. It doesn't look like that because Will Smith doesn't have a pattern of, at least to my knowledge, of that kind of behavior. But it's just another factor that if he were a client, it would be something to explore. The other thing that I want to throw out there, and this is a pretty loose hypothesis, is that he had some kind of confusion. Because when I watch the video, and I'll rewind it here, he seems to be smiling as he's going up and then walking away. Let's watch this.
Oh, wow.
So I don't know if you can see it, but he seems to be kind of smiling. You just imagine you're in Will Smith's shoes. You're having a good time. You're front row at the Oscars. You're pretty sure you're going to get an award. This might be one of the biggest nights of your life. Cameras, famous people, the red carpet, it's just a lot. Think of like a wedding, right? If you've ever been married and you were being married, you're at your own reception. It's a whirlwind of activity. It's like you're out, you're just like talking to this person, talking about, and I imagine it could be kind of like that situation. So you're sitting in the crowd, the camera's on you. Chris Rock is making a joke. Maybe you have a bit of a grudge against him, so you're trying to act like everything's cool. He makes a joke at Jada Smith. You're like, ha, 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 because you're just like, I think I'm supposed to laugh. Oh my God, she's hurt by that. Okay, I'm going to do something. I don't know what but I'm going to get up. I'm going to do something. So he just gets up, and maybe he's not thinking I'm going to slap him. Oh my God, I'm walking up there. Oh my God, what's happening? And then, okay, and then slap. And then, okay, what did I just do? Walk back to my seat. What's happening? And then he starts to realize what he did. And then he starts to lean into it. It's tempting to watch this kind of behavior and think, well, he must have been in full control of his faculties. But that's not always true. I don't know about Will, but for people that I've worked with, they will just see red. They will get confused. Maybe there was a substance involved. There's no evidence of that. There's a trigger, and then you do something, and you're like, oh, why did I do that? And then you start to justify. You're like, well, yeah, I did that because of, and then you lean into it a little bit because you're trying to make up for the fact that you just did something that you weren't planning on doing. And then you just start saying, I did it because of this. And then it escalates. If you've ever mixed in those kinds of crowds, that can happen. And just because it's Will Smith and the Oscars doesn't mean he's some sort of superhuman and that he's beyond having those kinds of impulses, those kinds of confusions, those kinds of reactive justifications after the fact. And then you think, okay, crap, Denzel Washington comes over, other people come over after this, trying to console him. He's crying, reportedly. He goes on stage, he gets his award. He's still like in this state of, what did I just do? And it wouldn't be unusual to still justify it, which he kind of was. He was, it's about love. The world's about love. I wish he wouldn't have said that joke, I think is what he's saying. I'm trying to protect my family. I love my family. I'll do anything for them. Just like with the way, King Richard Williams did for his daughters, he's still kind of wrapped up in it. He goes to the after party. There are reports of him dancing to his own music and having a good time. And people are thinking, what a jerk face that he wouldn't be apologetic afterwards. Again, just imagine you do something impulsive at your own wedding and you don't have time to really process it. It doesn't make it okay. It's, as I said earlier, it was an immoral act and it was a criminal act, according to the experts. It was wrong. It should never have been done. But we can imagine people having impulses sometimes. Should he have consequences? Yes, absolutely. But people have impulses sometimes, and it's not okay, but it is human to do that. We should have consequences when we are human in that way, but I'm just saying. Anyway, and then the next day he apologizes to Chris, a very formal apology, I'll say. But I don't know, we'll probably get more interviews with him because, he's a pretty public person, I think. So I think we're going to get more data down the line. Another possibility is there are other health issues, like say Jada not only has alopecia, but maybe she had a bad biopsy or something, or a bad x-ray and she's worried, but she doesn't want to talk about it in public yet, right? But Will Smith knows that and knows that she's kind of fragile about that. And Chris Rock makes a joke about her hair, which is kind of making fun of her health issue. And why would someone lose control like that? What would build up? And so the thing that I want y'all to think about, what are the grudges and the trauma triggers and the sensitivities and the things that you're angry about? When we do stuff like this, it's often because we haven't dealt with our anger. And what people will say a lot of times is, well, you got to let it go. And that's just not possible. I'm telling you, the Frozen song is an impossibility. You can't just let it go. I mean, you can sometimes, but it's rare. If someone has hurt you, if your boss has humiliated you, if the system is bringing you down, if you've experienced racism and ableism, toxic masculine sexism, if you've experienced those things, it hurts. It is bothersome. It makes you angry. You get rageful, justifiably so, maybe. And you don't just let it go. You don't just put it aside. You have to deal with it. And here's how you deal with it. Is you talk about it. You think about it. You journal about it. You create over it. You write a song. You draw a painting. You rise up and speak out and march and picket and put up flyers and give lectures. You channel, because a lot of times in our society, anger is considered to be something that is animalistic. It's something we're supposed to discard. It's below us humans. We evolved to have all of our emotions for a reason. They're helpful. When there's an injustice, and we see this in other primates, you give a carrot to one monkey and then you give a Twinkie to the other monkey, the carrot monkey gets angry and slams the carrot down. This is unfair. He gets a Twinkie. I get a stupid carrot. Give me a Twinkie. It's injustice. It's in our bones. It's good. Injustice deserves anger. A response. We're like, hey, you, give me a Twinkie. That's unfair. We are treated unfairly all the time, and we are hurt by that, and then we get angry about it. If we let it go or suppress it or shame ourselves for it or don't let it out, then things can happen along these lines. We can pop, we can blow, because the anger's got to go somewhere. Sometimes it results in this. Sometimes it results in chronic alcohol use, chronic marijuana use. Sometimes it results in an eating disorder. Sometimes it results in low self-esteem. Sometimes it results in passive aggression towards your partner. Sometimes it results in emotional neglect of your children. It goes somewhere. It's not going nowhere. It has to go somewhere. And sometimes it happens here. So we can use this as jumping off point in our own lives. Address it. Go to therapy, obviously, but don't reject it. Invite it in. Accept it. I am angry. I am angry. You can say that with me. I'm sure you're angry about something. I'm angry about a lot of things. I am angry, and that's okay. What am I going to do with it? What is my anger trying to tell me to do? With the monkey, it's like my anger is telling me to protest because I want a Twinkie. Give me a Twinkie. If you're angry about being mistreated, then your anger is telling you you're being mistreated And you deserve better than that. We all deserve Twinkies. You just get angry. Now, we should not be violent. We should think, okay, what's going to get me the Twinkie? To rattle the cage, is that going to get me the Twinkie? To maybe crying sometimes is the answer. Just crying, just being like, this hurts, I'm going to cry. And then people see my tears and they care and they give us the metaphorical Twinkie. I'm sort of going off the rails. But anyway, so yeah, those are my thoughts on that. Again, immoral act should not have happened. I'm quite sure Will Smith deeply regrets it. I hope he deeply regrets it. It's a bad look. It's a bad role model. It's an opportunity for us to talk about real life and that celebrities are not superhumans. They make mistakes, sometimes humongous mistakes like this one. Like we all do. Consequences happen, and we need to look at ourselves and figure out what were the factors that led to that so that we can address it so it won't happen again. And everyone out there, please take care of yourself because you deserve it. You really, really do.